What has happened, everybody? James Hancock here. Hope everyone got good and fat over the Thanksgiving holiday, but I am back home in New York, and I decided to check out Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, which is doing a very limited release here in New York prior to its release on Netflix on December 23rd. So with that in mind, this review will be absolutely 100% spoiler-free. This is a whodunit. It's a mystery, so it doesn't really serve any purpose if you give away a mystery while reviewing it. But there's plenty to talk about. And where should we start? I guess we just start with the easy stuff. This is the second in Rian Johnson's Knives Out trilogy. There might be more down the road, but for now, he's planning on doing 3. But the film stars Daniel Craig, as well as Ed Norton, Janelle Monáe, Kathryn Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., Jessica Henwick, Madeline Klein, Kate Hudson, and Dave Bautista. And the name of the movie is a reference to the Beatles tune from the White Album, a song I listened to 150 million times growing up, but let's dive into what I thought about the flick. I'm of two minds when it comes to Rian Johnson in this film because, let's start with the positive. I applaud Rian Johnson for resurrecting basically what was almost kind of like a dead genre. Once upon a time, authors like Agatha Christie or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle kept millions of people delighted and hanging upon their every word, writing murder mysteries. But in the era of superheroes, murder mysteries have kind of faded into oblivion, but Rian Johnson brought it back and made it work. The first movie was a monster success. He uses an amazing ensemble cast in both films, and the films are snappy, they're stylish, they're fast, they're humorous, you're never bored. Parts of them are very obvious, but in an era that has come to be characterized by a complete and total lack of originality, an era where people just keep franchises going long past their usefulness, I feel like Rian Johnson deserves to be applauded for building a brand new franchise, brand new IP that he can basically call his own. The genre is not his own, but the Knives Out world is his own. And Daniel Craig, he's very successfully pivoted from being James Bond to Benoit Blanc, if that's how you properly pronounce that outrageous French/Southern name that he goes by. So on the whole, I did enjoy the movie, and I recommend people hunt it down when it becomes available on Netflix. But, here comes some negative stuff. And if you don't want to hear anything negative, bail out now. But Rian Johnson has a side to him, to his storytelling style and his public persona, that I wouldn't even say borders on smugness. There's like a self-righteous lecturing tone or preachiness that is just unendurable, and it makes his storytelling obvious along the way. Like, once you have an idea of what axe he's choosing to grind, well, the whole point of a whodunit is mystery. It's unpredictability. But Rian Johnson's rapidly becoming a very predictable storyteller. And he's becoming the poster child for the type of filmmaker that likes to scold and lecture the audience about really obvious topics. And it comes across as incredibly hypocritical when somebody's lecturing the audience about capitalism and the billionaire class and the upper crust, when everybody knows that Netflix bought the rights to the second and third Knives Out movies for $469 million. And obviously, only a small portion of that is going to go to Rian Johnson. I don't know what percentage, but I'm sure enough where he doesn't have to worry about rent ever again. But I feel like he's kind of lost the right to preach to anyone about the evils of capitalism ever again, or this kind of, immature streak that he's got where he's constantly talking about the need to burn down the existing world order. He's the establishment. No matter how much he doesn't want to acknowledge it, it's very hard to be like a punk rock anarchist who wants to like burn up all the paintings in the Louvre when you are a successful established filmmaker working for people like Disney and Netflix. But as much as I might find this side of his storytelling style to be off-putting, there's no denying that the dude is talented. Between episodes of Breaking Bad and his feature films, he's proven over and over and over again he knows what he's doing. And when it comes to just the grammar of filmmaking, his filmmaking technique, he's got chops. So for my part, it's a shame that he gets in his own way, standing between the films and his audience as frequently as he does. And I feel like if he would just try to be a little more invisible, and let his messages present themselves as opposed to like shoving them down the throat of the audience, his films would be more effective. But all that aside, I do enjoy these stories, and it's obvious that actors like Ed Norton and Daniel Craig or Janelle Monáe, that they're just having a fucking blast with these. I mean, you can just feel that kind of contagious energy coming off the story where it's almost like, oh my God, we're not putting on fucking tights for another Marvel movie. We actually just get to relax and be adults and enjoy a level of sophisticated storytelling that most movies do not employ. And I genuinely and sincerely hope that filmmakers will look at Rian Johnson's success with this franchise and say, I want to be that guy. I want to create my own world, my own characters, and make something new. And in a weird way, I feel like Rian Johnson, he reminds me of that line by Homer Simpson where he used to say,
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Because Rian Johnson 5 years ago was one of the main architects of the culture war in the world of Star Wars. And it's a shame that you can't talk about Rian Johnson or Knives Out without Last Jedi coming up. All I'll say about Last Jedi is that obviously his movie divided the fan base and they've been at war with each other for the last 5 years as a result. But the solution to that problem is to create new franchises, is to create new worlds, is to create new fictional settings, because if it's brand spanking new, when no one can argue about whether or not you're destroying it or getting it right or whatever, the films and or shows will have to either succeed or fail on their own merits or lack thereof. So irrespective of how you might feel about Rian Johnson and his handling of Star Wars or what's being done to so many beloved franchises, I really feel like the answer or like the path forward is what Rian Johnson has done with Knives Out. Create new stories for people to argue about or to get invested in, or whatever the case might be. But at least then we're talking about whether or not the movie succeeds at what it's trying to do, as opposed to whether or not it's living up to the legacy of a 50-year-old franchise or a 100-year-old franchise. Like, if Rian Johnson had decided just to make a Sherlock Holmes series, well, we'd all have our knives out, or our knives out, ready to stab each other over his good or bad handling of the classic character of Sherlock Holmes. But because we have no preconceived notions about Benoit Blanc, well, then we can just enjoy the movie on their own merits, or once again, or their lack thereof, depending upon whether or not you like these flicks. But I'm running the risk of becoming just as preachy and self-righteous as the great Rian Johnson himself, so let's talk about a few details that I really enjoyed. First and foremost, saw this at the Alamo Drafthouse in Lower Manhattan, my favorite theater in New York. And they always just nail the presentation. They were playing like the Glass Onion music video, or kind of modern day music video, repurposing the Beatles tune beforehand. And they were also showing highlights and trailers from a lot of the whodunits that Rian Johnson admires, movies like The Last of Sheila, starring James Coburn. And I feel like no theater chain does a better job of getting you excited for what you're about to see in terms of the programming that they cook up prior to a show. But as far as some of the characters in the movie are concerned, like I said at the beginning, I don't want to give away anything, but as you can see from the trailer, it's depicting celebrity and influencer and disruptor culture in a not so flattering light. And a lot of this movie is all about kind of skewering people who are extremely wealthy and take themselves far too seriously, but are in the end kind of complete and total loathsome pieces of shit. But no matter what you think of the beautiful people on display, I must confess that actress Madeline Klein, who I'd never seen in a movie prior to this, she's so sexy in this and wears such revealing outfits that the skin will melt off your face as you're watching this movie. So while Rian Johnson might like to lecture people about his worldview, at a minimum, he's willing to throw a little red meat to the audience. It's like, all right, well, here's a really hot girl that you can drool over while I hammer you over the head with all this other bullshit. And another area where this movie deserves a huge shout out is the pacing. It's a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, which for me, I'm immediately like, oh my God, this movie's going to overstay its welcome. I'm going to be bored. It's going to feel kind of like slack and lifeless. This movie hums right along. And I think people will debate endlessly whether or not they like the first one or the second one better. The first one has more of that kind of classic whodunit scenario with a bunch of, crazy old rich people in an old dark house, whereas this is very brightly lit, very new, very modern. I kind of like this one more because I feel like it's trying to go off in its own direction far more so. Like the last one clearly owed a debt of gratitude to people like Agatha Christie and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This one definitely feels like its own universe with its own cast of characters, and it really feels like brand new terrain. And I love the story structure. Rian Johnson, for all of his personal flaws, he really gets it when it comes to basically, like in the title of the movie, you're kind of peeling away layers of the onion, and the movie will kind of circle back around and then fill in the gaps and have different narrators taking over different parts and filling in certain scenes and giving you the exposition that you need to know, but always at the right time, not prematurely. And for like the first half up to like the first 2/3 of the movie, I do think most people will enjoy watching the world's greatest detective just interacting with these incredibly narcissistic, incredibly powerful maniacs. And there's something about Daniel Craig's performance as this character where I feel like the accent is not quite as good in this movie as it was in the last. It's almost like veering into self-parody. However, Daniel Craig seems to be having more fun in this world than he ever did in the world of James Bond. And I loved Casino Royale. I thought he was I thought that was a great kind of like fresh, clean slate for the franchise in a lot of ways. And he really nailed the character. You know, some of his Bond movies were better than others, but I did like Daniel Craig as James Bond. But I don't know if he ever really like leaned all the way in because the part just takes over your life. I mean, he would have people like force feeding him martinis, like total strangers in bars. I mean, that is a tough burden for any actor to bear. It seems like he would be delighted to do like 20 of these, and I hope, as long as they have a story to tell and a story worth telling, I hope that Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig will get back together every couple of years and give us another Knives Out story. And along those lines, I've read an interview today where Daniel Craig was talking about how he has every confidence that Rian Johnson will get the inspiration he needs to nail the third movie. And he said, Rian seems to me to be very excited about getting on with the next one. He's already got some ideas, and they sound to me to be really interesting, so I'm just going to let him get on with that. And when asked about what might come after, he said, well, down the line, yes, of course. I mean, if people are interested, then we'll make them. But if there ever came a point where either Rian or I thought we were just churning them out, I think we would back away. I mean, I just don't think that's what either of us want to do in life. Unless people are getting genuine fun out of them, forget it. And so I hope that this genre will remain exciting to Rian Johnson, or he'll feel like he has, fresh challenges to take on or explore, because there's an inventiveness to these movies that is a lot of fun, because so few movies make any demands on the audience whatsoever. And at least with these movies, they're placing some demands on the intelligence of the audience and giving you little rewards when you figure things out along the way. Like I said at the beginning, the main villain and the main hero of the story are pretty obvious from the word go, just given Rian Johnson's track record. However, there are lots of other little surprises along the way that I think people are going to thoroughly enjoy. But I think I've gone about as far as I can go without giving anything away. So in a few weeks' time, when this movie drops on Netflix, definitely check it out. Definitely form your own opinions. Definitely make up your own mind. But before I wrap up, I'd like to bring you a word from Manscaped, the official sponsor of my podcast, Wrong Reel. It's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favor and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products that have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and using the discount code WRONGREEL for free shipping and 20% off. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. As we like to say at Manscaped, it is the perfect package for your package. So that's all I've got for now. Hope you enjoyed this review. If so, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. And if you disagree with me, fair play. Leave me a comment below or give me a shout on Twitter at Geeking Out. But I look forward to hearing everybody's thoughts. And more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.